So hello everybody, we are back again for another installment of our hashtag Female Boss YouTube series, and we have an absolutely incredibly inspiring hashtag Female Boss with us today. We are going to be welcoming Johanna Basford OBE. So hello Johanna, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, lovely to be here.
Thank you. So Johanna Basford OBE is a highly successful Scottish illustrator, businesswoman and Guinness World Record holder. Johanna's illustrations are hand-drawn, predominantly in black and white with pencils or pens, and having sold 21 million of her colouring books, her illustrations have been seen and sold across the world. You'll find Johanna's works on products such as our colouring books, wallpaper, beer labels, and even tattoos. She is absolutely a pioneer of the colouring book trend. So I suppose we'll just get kick-started. And I mean, obviously you're very busy, you run a very highly successful business, but why don't you share a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit more about your amazing business?
So it never intended to be a business. What happened was I went to art school and I studied print and textile design, and I absolutely assumed that I would go and work in a big studio somewhere, you know, New York, London, Paris, all those good things. Did that, interned for a little while and found I didn't actually like it. And weirdly, at roughly the same time, I started to get a lot of requests for freelance work. So people had seen my degree show and either wanted to commission illustrations, or I'd made some hand-printed wallpapers for my degree show. They wanted to buy them. And I was like, well, that's nice. I've got some customers, but I've not got any other stuff. So I moved back home to Aberdeen and I looked into setting up a wee printing studio. And initially I did that. I made hand-printed wallpapers, light fittings, a little bit of ceramics, and I had like this interiors little label thing. And it started out like that. But what I found was that I really liked the drawing bit, not so much the manufacturing, the printing and the making. Definitely didn't like dealing with retailers and all that kind of stuff. So I'd got to the point where I'd got some startup funding, and I had a business plan, and I was getting quite a lot of nice press, but I didn't actually like what I was doing. So I muddled along for a little bit longer, and then lo and behold, the credit crunch came along, and all my really fancy interior designers and all those, you know, like nice clients that were buying expensive wallpapers just dried up overnight. I was like that, oh my goodness, I'm so skint, I'm so broke. And I was like having to borrow pot noodles from my friends, and that dreaded thing that you see at the bank machine when it says insufficient funds, you know, you can't even get a tenner out. I was like, this is really bad times. So I decided I had to make some changes. And it was brilliant actually, because I don't think if I'd been backed into that kind of corner, I would have made those big decisions. I shut the studio, sold all my equipment and focused on just the drawing bit. And I sort of rebranded myself as an illustrator, despite having done textiles at college. And I focused on doing freelance illustrations, so doing drawings for clients. You're like, you know, Absolute Vodka would email and go, we need some berries and raspberries for a label. And I would draw it and send it back to them. Amazing. And it just sort of went like that. And then fast forward a few tough years, like I always feel bad doing that because like that was actually like the really gritty bit, but fast forward a few gritty, turbulent years, and I got approached by a publisher who'd seen one of my drawings. I wanted to make a children's colouring book. And I said, I'd love to do a colouring book, but I want to do one for adults. Pitched the idea of an adult colouring book. That was back in 2011. So they were like, I don't know. I did the first few drawings, sent them off, and then the rest is history, as they say. There was a lot of colouring books.
Amazing. That's incredible. That's absolutely amazing. And, you know, I think it's really important as well for, you know, the students who are participating in the Female Boss Initiative or others who are potentially watching this video today is understanding that, you know, it's hard to run a business. It's really hard to even kickstart that at the very beginning. And you know exactly what you did. You pivoted, you changed what you had to do. And I'd imagine you did a bit of soul searching as well to decide exactly what you want to do, but you found it. And here you are. You mentioned a little bit about, you know, the funding aspect of, you know, starting up your business. So, you know, you obviously had a lot of interest of people who are keen to buy your illustrations on your wallpaper and all the other pieces you were doing as well. So you knew you were onto something. So what support did you get at the very beginning, you know, when you're about to start and you needed extra support in terms of business planning and getting a bit of finance?
Loads. So I was not embarrassed about coming forward and saying, I don't know what I'm doing and I need some help. Also, I graduated from art school completely broke. So it wasn't as if there was a big pot of money there waiting to, you know, to be invested in my future. It was just like, right, we have to make this work. And initially I worked 2 part-time jobs while I was getting everything set up. And that went on for years. Like this wasn't like a sudden decision. I was waitressing and I was working in a clothes shop and I was doing the business around it in the evenings, at the weekends, and on days off. And it was like that for quite a long time. There wasn't this pivotal moment when I was just like, we're going for it. But I approached what was the PSYBT at the time, which was the Princess. Oh, you'll know better. What is it?
Prince's Scottish Youth Business Trust or something. I think I probably got the letters all mixed up.
Yeah, I know.
So we know what we're talking about.
For both funding and mentorship and training, which was wonderful. I went to Business Gateway, Scottish Enterprise, spoke to those guys, Elevator, which is part of Nesta, and also the Scottish Arts Council. Literally all these people. And if they had a course or a training day or an offer of mentorship, I took it, like absolutely everything I could do. Oh, the Cultural Enterprise Office as well. I got mentorship through them and a bit of funding. So I would spend lots of time trawling through to find these different things. I'd apply for everything. And you don't get everything, but it's a good idea to apply for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would imagine that going through, all the different kind of organizations that we have in our kind of entrepreneurial ecosystem, as we like to call it, the learning that you would have gained from just taking part in these competitions in terms of, your business planning, your pitching, how to sell your products and all that, I would imagine taking part in these would be incredibly valuable.
Yeah, and also just the people that you meet along the way, both
Absolutely.
in terms of other people applying alongside you, because they tend to come up with you. And, like the people on the panels, like they tend to be like really great potential mentors or people to keep in touch with. So it was great for networking, I guess. And as an art graduate, like I'm not a particularly confident person. I wouldn't say I'm an extrovert. And the thought of having to pitch an idea and be up in front of a panel really scared me. And the first ever time I had to do it was in front of the Scottish Arts Council. My mum, bless her, drove me all the way from Aberdeen to Edinburgh for my interview. Aww. And it was terrifying. It was so scary, but I'm really glad that I did it. And it's definitely one of those things where the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And you get used to that idea of pitching, that uncomfortableness of talking about your own work and building yourself up. For a lot of people, that's quite a tricky mindset. And as much as you practice in front of the mirror, it's not until you do it in front of real people and you see their reactions that you kind of, you get into your comfort zone a bit with it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And that's definitely one of the things that we try to encourage through our Bridge to Business program. Obviously, that's part of Female Boss. And, is getting young people to understand the importance of getting up. And, it's absolutely terrifying. And whether it be taking part in our workshops or our competitions or, taking part in Female Boss and such, like they'll be able to develop those skills that will be able to help them, whether they're looking to start up a business or in general, for employment as well. And it's just building that in terms of your network as well. Like, and having a great network is so important.
It really is. And I think you make a few good connections, they really do see you through, and people tend to float about a bit. So, someone that you might know from one organization will flip over to another one, or someone gets a new job. So it really does pay to just, be open and friendly and be kind and nice, because word gets round as well. So it works the other way.
That is really very true.
I think people will soon hear.
Totally. No, I completely. And you obviously touched a little bit on mentoring as well. That mentorship is something that you've obviously gained a lot of value from yourself, and do you feel as though having a mentor is really crucial for you as a businesswoman who, whether it's starting up or actually running your successful business now?
Yes and no. So I had a PSYBT mentor. He was fab right at the beginning and sort of helped me with a few of the financial things. I think the thing with mentorship is there are more people wanting mentorship than there are potentially mentors in the world. Like, obviously, it just goes without saying. But there's that fantastic saying that you are the sum influence of the 5 people that you were around the most. So, like that could be your 5 best friends or 5 people that you follow on social media. So for me personally, I never had like a creative mentor or somebody in my field. What I decided to do was to use social media. So, for periods of time, I would unfollow absolutely everybody and just follow, like 5 great people and soak up all their influence that way. And it's almost like you are hanging out with them, because, you're seeing all their Insta posts and their stories. And it's such a great way to sort of build your own dream team of mentors. Just like use social media, filter out all the people that aren't helpful, filter out all the nonsense, the stuff that wastes your time. You can't do it forever. Everyone likes to dip in and out with that kind of stuff, but you can use Instagram as this amazing tool that gets you straight into like you're having lunch with people that you would never in a million years dream of meeting. And it's fantastic. It's such an easy way to build up your your network in a way that's not scary, or, you know, like it doesn't matter where you are, all those good things.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And I love the fact that I've never did that before, only followed a small amount of people on social media, but that's actually such a great thing to do. It's such a great idea. I think I might actually try that.
It's very freeing.
I bet it is. Yeah, I mean, I have this habit of if I see someone just posting too much and they're just starting to annoy me a little bit, I'll just have to unfollow or mute. You have to just like have it nice. And, you know, for me, I like to follow things that are inspiring. I now follow you on Instagram and I absolutely love your Instagram now. And that's one of the things I wanted to ask you actually in terms of like building up your social media platforms. I mean, obviously you've got a massive following on Instagram now. Is that just being quite organic, or have you worked really hard to build that? I would imagine it's a bit of both perhaps.
Yeah, there's been times when I've thought, right, we need to strategize this. It seems that it's just a bit airy fairy. And to be honest, that doesn't work for me. You know, like I've worked with really great people that know what they're doing. And, you know, we've had plans in place, or, you know, sometimes we'll dabble with having someone else post on my behalf. It just doesn't work. It's so inauthentic. Facebook is a great example of that. So I think I've actually got much more followers on Facebook than I do on Instagram. I think it's like 235,000, whereas
Wow.
on Insta, I think it's maybe 170. But I prefer
185.
There you go. I haven't checked for a while. I prefer Instagram as a platform. Like for me as a creative person, it's more beautiful. When I go into Facebook, it's more functional, I guess. Like that's what I do, my Facebook lives and all those things. I think the thing that I've discovered with social media is everyone can sniff out somebody that's being false. So I just try to keep everything really authentic. I don't follow loads of people. And for a while, I was worried that people would be offended by that. But the reason is you just can't take in that amount of information. And if, you know, like you just can't show up on social media and like everyone's posts and reply to all the comments. So it's good to have some boundaries, which I'm better at doing now. And I think having a bit of knowledge. So like we do a couple of tutorials, you know, every year, and my publisher will set me up on a Skype call with, you know, like somebody who's really good in that field. And it's great to just ask those questions and like, what is going on with that algorithm? And you know, nobody knows.
I don't think anybody knows.
No. So if you think you know what's going on with the algorithm, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah.
But it's really good to just get some technical questions, like, you know, things like what are the ideal number of hashtags? Is there any point using a hashtag on Facebook? So I think you can get bogged down in the technicalities of that. So it's good to have like a basic understanding. But after that, for me, I just try to be really authentic. I post when I want, what I want to post. I have a few basic rules, like I don't post pictures of my kids. I try not to like do live Instas all the time. And if I've got nothing to say, I don't post because I think they're really boring. Like, I don't think we should take up other people's time with our ramblings. So unless it's, you know, helpful, beneficial, interesting, just don't post.
That's actually very sound advice. I like that. But yeah, I mean, the social media thing it is tricky, and it changes so quickly as well that literally you could know exactly what it is one day and then you're a dinosaur the next day, because it's so hard to keep up, especially with the algorithm. It's so hard to understand it half the time, but it's obviously working really well for you. And, you know, people are obviously massive fans of what you do as well. So they're happy to follow you, whether you're posting every day or once a week. You know, they love what you do, which is amazing, you know?
Yeah, do you know what? It's a lovely way to open up the studio and involve people and let them see what's coming, you know, beforehand. And as much as I'm like, oh, social media is so terrible, it's such a distraction, there's so much toxicity on there, it's also wonderful. It's fantastic for building a community. So in terms of like your customers, but also just comrades, you know, other people in your field. It's great for sharing ideas. And I think you just need to see it as another tool in your toolkit and be savvy about how you use it. But it's a wonderful thing to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's very clear that you've built an amazing community of people who love what you do, you know, are massive fans of your colouring books in particular. I mean, Ailsa and Megan, who are in the Bridge to Business team, are massive fangirls of you and use your colouring books, and they were absolutely delighted that we were having you here today. So I think they'll be embarrassed that I've mentioned that, but I feel like I could just let you know that. Sorry, Ailsa and Megan. But
delighted to hear that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, it's people like them who'd love to watch you on a live and be part of the journey and just feel like they get to know you a little bit. And that's, I suppose that really links into you wanting to be authentic and just be you. And why would you want to be anybody else but that?
Yeah, I think for me in particular, you know, like I hate the phrase, but I am the brand, if you know what I mean. So It is just me drawing my pictures. And I like that people can be involved in it and see the
Yeah.
creation, and it's real, you know, like you'll see the days when I'm like that, this is not working. I've spent 4 days on this picture. It's not even going in the book. It's terrible. And I think that level of honesty is really refreshing. And it's the first time really in business that you're not just getting presented with the final outcome. Like people can act like, so for example, the other day I was drawing a lost property office. I said, so what are the weirdest things that you've ever lost? And people were telling me on Instagram, and then I could draw some of those things into the book. So it's just a really nice way to interact with people and have them be part of the process so that they
Yeah.
feel a bit of ownership before that book even, gets to the shop. Like they feel like they've been part of it. And that's really unique.
Absolutely, that's amazing. I think I seen that post actually, that you put on your Instagram, where people you'd obviously got rid of your block in your head and been inspired by the people that were giving you ideas, and it looked amazing. So
Thank you.
it looked really good. So lots been happening for you. It's been an amazing journey, I would imagine, a hard slog, because obviously starting up a business is hard work, but even harder as it grows into a successful business to obviously maintain that success and, keep it on the right direction that you want to go, or potentially pivot. What do you think? I would imagine you've had that moment like, oh my God, this is actually working. Like people are buying my stuff, like, can you remember that moment?
Yeah, so I guess there was a moment when I had phoned my publisher. The books had done all right. Initially, we were going to print 13,000 copies of Secret Garden, and I absolutely panicked. And I remember phoning my mom going, you need to get your friends to all buy a lot of these, because I don't know if they're going to ask for the advance back, if we don't sell through.
Yeah.
And we hit a couple of reprints quite quickly. So I knew it would be okay. I didn't have to give the advance back. But I'd phoned my publisher to say, could you tell me when we get to like 500,000 sales, like 500,000 books? Like I want to like do a big post. And she was really quiet at the other end of the phone. I was like, oh no, what's happened? And she went, we've actually just passed 1 million. And I remember because I was sitting in the car park at Marks and Spencer's with my newborn baby, breastfeeding her, waiting to go in to like buy a ready meal. I was like, oh, that's really random. 1 million books. And I tried to picture what 1 million books would look like in my head, and you can't really picture it. But I think a lot of it's been quite surreal. And because I think it depends how you define success, like that's another thing.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not dying with the most amount of money. It's about the type of life that you lead. And for me, success means being healthy, being happy, being around my kids, being able to go and pick them up from school when I want to, enjoying the work that I do, feeling fulfilled by my job, waking up on a Monday at 5 a.m. and not like, can't wait to get to work. Like to me, that is success. So I think when people say, like what at what point did you know? And for me, it's like a journey, and success keeps moving. So it's like a fluid destination. The one thing I would say about pivoting is you definitely do need to be open to the pivot. I think for me in particular at the beginning, because I'd had so much funding to go down this specific route and the press looked good, and good press doesn't always equal happiness or money in the bank. I felt a bit embarrassed about pivoting, and it feels like you're sort of boxed in by your original intentions, and you're like, wow, everyone's expecting this, and am I going to look foolish if I go and do something else? And I think there's a saying about something like a ship. Something about you, something to do with course correcting. I cannot think of it, but there's a very poignant, lovely, articulate saying
we'll Google it,
about
we'll
course
find out.
correcting. Yeah, and it's so true. Like you really do need to course correct along the way. And I think being rigid and staying in your lane and like keeping to that business plan that you made when you were 17 is probably not the best idea.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would imagine that you look at things that potentially, it's always financial forecast for me. If you look at the financial forecast you did at the very, very beginning, and I would imagine for you though, it was actually above and beyond what you thought, but no, it's amazing.
Those financial forecasts, to be honest, the business planning side was never my forte, and I did feel like I just was plucking numbers out of nowhere. Like it was such a difficult thing for me to conceptualize and pin down. What worked better for me was to aim to like work with a set number of clients, a set caliber of clients, maybe certain names. Like I really wanted to be commissioned by Starbucks at one point. I wanted Secret Garden to be the best-selling book for my publisher that year. I wanted to have New York Times bestseller. Like look into those kind of things that I felt not that I could control more, because you can't control who buys your book, but it was just more manageable for me. I mean, it's a type of brain, but I can't see a number on a spreadsheet and think that is the goal. Like
Yeah.
it's just pixels, isn't it?
No, absolutely. I'm exactly the same. And are you a person that likes, like a vision board and to like write notes and very kind of goal orientate, this is what I want to do, especially maybe at the start of the year or just throughout the year, just changing it?
100%. So we have goals at the start of the year. I've got little kids, 2 girls, and we have the girl gang goals. So we have them written on a bit of paper. It's stuck up in the kitchen. We've all got the things that we want to do. But I'm also really open to them being fluid, not in that, like Mia wants to learn how to ride her bike with stabilizers. I'm not going to get to September and go, well, it's quite difficult. Let's just not. No, like you still have to do it.
Yeah.
But maybe there's like other things as well. And, it develops like that. So I don't think being fluid is letting yourself off the hook, but you do need to be open and flexible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. Girl gang goals. Girl gang goals. That is really cute. And your daughters, I mean, how old are your children?
7 and 4.
7 and 4. And I would imagine, obviously you've been running your business and you would have been having your children throughout running your business as well. And how did you manage that with obviously becoming a mum, but also still being this amazing businesswoman as well?
So I was really lucky in that I managed to really focus on work in my 20s. Like I would say I made a lot of sacrifices and really, really focused hard then and worked hard. Like I'm talking all night hours, 7 days a week, nonstop. Like that was quite regular because I couldn't do that now. I think I had my kids in my early 30s and they are wonderful, but it's a game changer. And it kind of annoys me when I see all those posts about mumpreneurs, whatever they call themselves, like working moms, and they're so glossy and she's got like a baby on her hip and she's on their laptop. And it's not like that at all. It's absolute carnage. And I think I had this idea that I would have this playpen in the corner of the studio and the baby would sleep. And it wasn't. It was just like survival of the fittest. Like even now, some days it all goes a bit Hunger Games. Like, what are we doing? But I think for me, getting a good early start really helped. And then once the kids came along, it was about being, again, fluid, like learning to set different goals, to be more accepting of what was and wasn't going to work, to manage my expectations of what I could achieve in a day. Otherwise, because you can't do the same number of things, and you just end the day feeling terrible. But also it's that thing about success again. Like, is success now for me working 60 hours a week and turning over a certain amount and working for good clients, or is it doing one great project over 3 months, being present as a mom, not losing my mind, all those good things? But I think overall I love that my kids are seeing me doing a job that I love. I'm raising them to understand that your work is a big part of what you do, so you should love it. They also know the value of hard work. Like, I'm very disciplined in terms of my work, and I'm like that, like we have to do this and I love it, but also you have to take it seriously. And I think that's a really good example to set to kids and other family members as well.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Completely agree with what you're saying there for sure. And are your children showing any artistic traits so far?
Yeah, but I can't work out if that's because they're genuinely interested or just because there's so much art stuff kicking about our house. Like maybe if I was a hairdresser, they'd be really passionate about hair. So it's kind of hard to tell, but they do. They love to draw. They love to contribute. They think it's perfectly normal to present me with a handful of drawings that them and their friends have made at school. And they're like, these are the suggestions for your new book, Mum. And I'm like, okay, great, thank you.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I'm just thinking of your daughters when they're older and, memories of being a child and, looking up to you and obviously being inspired by what you do at such a young age already. They're drawing pictures and they're showing you. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. And I think as well with creativity, everyone's born creative, but, quite often as we get older, we sort of lose that ability. And, obviously my kids aren't hopefully going to be in that position because, they've got me telling them all the time and encouraging them and showing them by example that creativity is a thing that everybody can embrace in a different ways. Maybe you write, maybe you paint, maybe you play music, but it's a big part of their lives. And I really like that. And also I make them come in and help me in the studio every now and again. So I think that's a good, it's like a good way to integrate them into the world of work. And, I pay Mia to mop the floor and they have to like help me up to the bins. So it's
I love
good.
that. Yeah. Instead of doing like like your chores at home, you're doing like their chores at the studio.
They get that as well.
Oh,
Both.
okay, they get about both then. Good.
They've got a tight ship.
I love that. That's hilarious. I love it. So in terms of like the struggles that you've had within your business, because obviously, I mean, we spoke a little bit about what it's like starting up and then, you know, running your business, you know, what would you say is the biggest struggle that you face in your business so far, if any? And if you had a struggle, what did you do to overcome that?
So yeah, loads daily. I think people that appear successful or doing well, they haven't had less struggles than you. They've just overcome them or learned their lesson. And I wouldn't change anything either. So even the things I look back on and like that was horrendous. And, you know, like I get the cold sweats when I think about it. You know, whether, and for me, it usually evolves around some sort of conflict or a disagreement or like something, a partnership that's not quite worked out well. And I struggle with that. I think it's to do with the personal relationships. You know, like for me, that's quite difficult and tricky. There's been a few legal issues, a few financial things. I think the biggest thing probably came just after I'd had Mia, my second daughter. The colouring books were exploding. There were so many opportunities. And it was just wild. Like I'd had Mia and gone back to work within 9 days. And I had a newborn baby sleeping under my desk in her Moses basket. And I was getting asked to go to New York and to fly to Brazil and to do all these different projects. And I remember just thinking, what am I doing? And, you know, like big companies were coming on board asking me to be brand ambassadors and opportunities to do licensing deals. And it was just crazy. And part of me felt like I have this amazing opportunity. I would be crazy not to just dive in and grab it with both hands. But on the other side of it, I was like, I don't even know if I really want this. And I think it was quite a difficult decision to step back and go, do you know what? I'm going to do the work that I love, which is drawing, creating books. I'm not going to get distracted by all that other stuff, because if I do all that, I've got nothing left for my kids. So for me, that was the toughest thing. And I think by that point, a lot of business advisors were giving me brilliant business advice, but it's like when someone gives you advice on how to run a marathon, it's not the same for everyone because everyone's got different start points, different genetics. So that advice was all good advice, but it just wasn't good for me. So for me, that was the toughest call to make. Often, or even every time actually, that I look back and there's a thing I'm like, oh, I wish I'd done that differently. It's always because I've listened to my head over my heart. I think instinctively my gut always knows what to do, but in your head, like, that's a crazy thing. You need to do a logical decision. This is what a normal person would do. Don't do that other thing. But when you do that, for me anyway, it never really works out.
And I totally agree with the fact that, you know, you should always listen to your gut. I don't know what it is, but they say it's your second brain. Apparently it just knows. So absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I can imagine it to be really difficult to obviously have all these amazing opportunities, have this beautiful little baby in the Moses basket sleeping, and just not really knowing what the right thing to do is. Should I be going doing this? But there's just, it's a bit of soul searching, and you just deciding, you know what, I don't actually know if I want to do that. And it's having the choice and not having to do something that you don't really want to do.
I think as well, there's a temptation to get caught up in the current. And we were moving towards being a licensing lifestyle brand. So imagine like Orla Kiley or Kath Kidston, and they're not necessarily a massively creative venture. So I was doing more and more legal work and signing off on contracts. And it was about how can we take this one drawing and put it onto 50,000 projects. And it was just, it didn't feel right. Like, I'm a creative person and I wanted to draw. And I think once again, it falls back to that definition of success. Like, what is your definition of success? Is it to have a multi-million-pound global lifestyle brand, or is it to be really blooming happy in your wee house with your kids, healthy, not stressed out you're not, and doing the work that you love? So for me, it was quite an easy choice in the end.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know which one I'd choose anyway. It'd be the latter for sure.
I think most people would.
Yeah, no, definitely, absolutely. And I think it does take a little while sometimes though for people to really recognize that what is success to them, you know, that happiness should always be top of that list. And you know, in my opinion, or at least definitely in your top 5 of things within your life, you need to be happy. You're here once, you know, and you can do all this amazing work and whatever, but if you're not happy doing it, then, you know, I always find that quite sad.
Yeah. And I think to do well in your job, you have to work hard. You have to have dedication and discipline. And you can't do, well, I can't do all those things when it's a thing that I don't like. I just can't do it. But when it's a thing that you love, it's like 2 + 2 = 57. Like everything just fits into place. You are delighted to do your work. You really want to put in the extra hours. It makes everything work beautifully, and it gives you that opportunity to really flourish and push your potential because you enjoy it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got the passion, you've got the drive, and you've got the love for it, and that's what's so important. Definitely. So in terms of, starting up a business, for the students taking part in our #Female Boss Initiative, or either already starting a business, very early stage, or even considering it, but for you and from your experience of starting up and getting to the point that you're at just now, what would be your one piece of advice that you would love to give, the students participate and to give them that kind of boost on how to get started?
So it's not one piece, because it's never one piece.
Give us them all.
Yeah, I think find a thing that you genuinely love. Don't try and like find a gap in the market. Like, I don't think that works. Like, find the thing that sets your soul on fire that you absolutely love doing, because it's all going to work easier. Work really blooming hard all the time. Like, just be prepared for that. Have a thick skin, because you get plenty knockbacks, plenty negativity, but you have to just dust yourself off and keep going. And be kind. I used to say be nice, but I think nice people get walked all over, but kindness feels different. We're all in this together, as they say. Like, everyone is trying to do their best. And as we said earlier, like, word gets round. I think so much business flourishes when there's just kindness and people are acting in a really kind way and nice way, and the way that you treat people will filter back through everything that you do. Everyone talks about the character of a business, and its characteristics and its community and its ethos. And I think even if you're a one-man band, you should still be thinking like that. And for me anyway, I think, it's really good to act with kindness. Again, culture. That's what I'm thinking of, the culture of the business.
Love that. Completely agree. And the hard work piece for sure. Because it's never an overnight success. There's a hard, it's like, I don't know if you've ever seen that kind of iceberg. You see the tip of the iceberg, but you never see everything that's underneath, and I would imagine that's something that you feel exactly like, it's been hard, but you've got that point now where you're running with it and you're really, really successful.
Yeah. And I think as well, not enough is said about that hard bit, because I think everyone that's starting off gets that hard bit. And if you think you're the only one that's ever felt like that, you're like, that it's not meant to be this hard, I'm just going to give up. But there were long periods of time when it was dreadful. I was like that. I could do any number of jobs and actually earn a regular income and get to pay my bills and go out like my friends are. Like, I was like, this is awful. I got the biggest order for wallpaper of my life from a big Swedish castle. And I remember lying face down on the floor in my mum's house, just crying into the carpet. Like, I can't physically print that. What am I going to do? And it was my dad, actually. He just stepped over me and went out of the room. So it is really dire. And, I used to work those 2 part-time jobs for years to get it going. I would take the overnight mega bus down to London to trawl around with my portfolio. And it's not until you've brushed your teeth in Victoria bus station at 5 a.m. and, like, gone out with the deodorant wipes to try and make yourself presentable after an overnight bus to see potential clients. And I was like, this is grim. This is really grim. Is everyone else doing this? And the answer is yes, but nobody really speaks about that.
No, they don't. They don't speak about it. And that's the thing. It's about being real about what it's like to run a business, because it is blimmin' hard. And, and I think it's really important for people to really understand that and know exactly what they're getting themselves into. I mean, it's fantastic what it can do for you, for your life, for you as a person, the things that you can learn, but it is difficult at the same time. And it's making sure that you look after yourself while the times are hard as well. And, going from that, what sort of things do you like to do to relax? I mean, obviously you've got 2 beautiful daughters who you obviously spend so much time with or have a great time with, but in terms of you, how do you like to unwind and just kind of switch off?
Yeah, I like being outside in nature. I find that super inspiring. It's like an automatic reset button for me. So whether that's walking on the beach or going up a hill or a forest walk, I just find that wonderful. But other than that, I think health is really important for everyone, but especially when you're self-employed, because you can't afford to get sick. Like, I remember I caught chicken pox once, and I went to the doctor. He's like, I'm going to sign you off. I'm like, well, that doesn't work for me. Like,
no,
I've got a deadline. So things like, taking your multivitamins, eating a healthy diet, drinking plenty of water, looking after your mental health. And often that means, unlogging from a lot of social media, because you
Yeah.
need a little bit of time to reset, exercising, all those good things. Like I find like that I just do pure creative work, pure admin, pure everything. I'm a pure sham of a human if I don't look after my physical health. So I think more than anything, that's really important to do.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. And, the mental health part of it, absolutely, like you do need to switch off, because it is hard to switch off when it's your own thing. You
Mm-hmm.
can, because it consumes your life and you think about it all the time because the pressure's on, because you are the business as well. And it is really important to be able to get rid of the social media, or, I'd imagine that so many people use your colouring books to relax and unwind, and I wouldn't, I'm going to say, do you ever colour in your own colouring books when you're looking
I
to,
do
oh,
actually,
that's
yeah.
great. I love that.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that that would work, but it does.
Yeah. And does it help you unwind?
Yeah, quite
There you
like
go.
it. It's nice. It's nice because there's no expectation when you're coloring. Like it's just your thing. So sometimes client work can get a little bit fraught because obviously there's somebody that you have to ultimately impress and show the work to. But when you're coloring, it's just all for you. So yeah, it's lovely.
No, that's amazing. Oh, it's been so lovely speaking to you, Johanna. Thank you so much for your time today. I
No
really,
problem.
really are grateful for you sharing, your journey through your business so far. And thank you so much again for taking the time to speak to us today at Young Enterprise Scotland.
Thank you very much for having me. It was lovely to chat.
Thank you.